Okay, so today we're going to go over mean, median, and mode. The first one we're going to go over is mean. Mean is mean is shown by a symbol x bar. This is the symbol for mean, or what we refer to sometimes as the average. So the average and the mean are the same thing, and the symbol that we use sometimes is x bar. So we're going to look at what the mean of the following set is. You probably know how to do this for sure. I'm assuming from before. So x bar is equal to, we add up all the scores and we divide by the number of scores. So what that means for x bar is we add up the 4 plus the 9 plus the 10 plus 12, 13, and 30, and we divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that gives us 78 divided by 6, which is 13. So we would say the mean or average x bar is equal to 13. Okay, here's the second example. What is the mean of this following set? So same thing, we use x bar, we add up all the values, negative 12 plus negative 9 plus negative 5, and remember these negative values are, we can put brackets around them to help us remember how to add negative numbers. Plus 2, plus 8, and plus 10 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when I add at the top, remember that negative values get added together, but they get subtracted. So if I added up all these negative values here, I would get negative 12 plus negative 9, which is negative 21, plus negative 5, which is negative 26. And if I added up all these values, I would get 2 plus 8, which is 10, plus 10, which is 20. So I get a positive 20, a negative 26. If I add those two together, I actually end up getting a negative 6. All over 6, and that's equal to negative 1. So x bar, or my average, my mean, is equal to negative 1. Okay, so we've dealt with some values that have all positives, some values that have all negatives. So it's a good idea to mix the two, and what if we have a value of 0 in it? Well, let's see how this one works here. So again, we're using our mean symbol, x bar, which is equal to negative 4 plus 42 plus 10 plus 0, I include that, and plus negative 35. And maybe again put brackets around these things so you can remember that you're going to subtract them. And all over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this time I have 5 numbers in my data set. Okay, so I add these up. If you want, you can use a calculator too. That's okay. Or you can look at the negative values. So I have a negative 4 and a negative 35. If I add those two together, I get the negative 39. And the 42, the 10, and the 0 give me 52. So I have a positive 52, and I have a negative, or subtracting, a 39. And that leaves me with 13. So I end up with 13 over 5. Again, for some of these values, it would be best to use a calculator to be very accurate. So 13 divided by 5 is 2.6 this time. So my mean, my average, is 2.6. Okay, so I'm just organizing things, helping you add and subtract integers, negative values, positive values. If you have 0 included in your set, you have to include it as a number. It's one of your values, because that could be a percentage or something, right? So just keep in mind how we do those. There's one more example on this page, but I'm going to skip it because we've done quite a few. So I'm going to move on to median. Now, many of you might know what median is. We're going to use the symbol capital M and a lowercase d. And this is the symbol for the median, or what we call the middle number. Whoops. Okay, and the middle number is only able to be seen if we do kind of three things. So the first thing we do is we want to put the numbers in order, and we want to go from smallest to biggest, or to largest. That's the first thing we do. We put the numbers in order from smallest to largest. If I look at this data set, they're already put in order for me. Okay, so step one is kind of done. Step two, what we do is we want to strike out. So we're going to strike out numbers from the outside to the middle. This is one way to do it. You could just count the numbers, how many there are, and then just go to the middle one. So I'm going to strike out 1, 2, 3, and this one's easy because I'm left with just the middle one. In this case, the median is equal to 12. Okay? But sometimes you'll actually have two numbers left in the middle. You'll have two numbers left in the middle. And let's see what happens when we have that situation like this. So the first thing I do is I order them in terms of largest to greatest, which they are 4, 9, 10, 12, 13, 30. They're ordered. Good. I strike them out, right? Step one is done. Step two, I'm going to strike them out. 1, 2, oh! See, if I strike those out, they will both be struck out. So I'm actually left with 2. So 2 I've done. Now step 3 on this case is if there are two numbers left, if two numbers are left, take the average. So just the average of the two. So I take 10 plus 12, and I divide by 2. So that gets me 22 divided by 2, which is in fact 11. So in this case, the median is equal to 11. So those are the only two types of problems you'll have. First of all, you order them from least to greatest. Then you strike out the outside numbers or find the middle. If there's two numbers in the middle, then you have to take the average. Okay, so here's another set of data using negatives and positives. So again, I have to order them from least to greatest, which they already are, I think. Let's just see though. So -4, -3, there's two of them. -2, 5, 8, there's two of those, and 56. So they're ordered from least to greatest. Step 1 is done. Step 2, let's strike out the outside numbers. Again, I'm left with 2. Whoops. These two. Now, this is a little tricky because one of them is negative, right? So step 3, we're going to take -2, we're going to add 5, and we're going to divide by 2 because there's two numbers. So -2 plus 5 is 3, right? Because we're subtracting 2 and adding 5. And 3 over 2 is in fact 1.5. So in this case, my median is 1.5. That would be the middle value. Again, because I have two things here that are one's negative, one's positive, we have to deal with that as well. Okay, step 4. what is the median value of the following data set? So this one's big, and they're not in any order. So now we finally have to, I'm going to show you how to write them in order from smallest to greatest. So if I go through these numbers, I can see that, okay, 2 is the smallest, right? 2, 7, 11, 51. 2 is the smallest, so I'm going to write that one first. The next one up would be 3, I think. 3, yeah, and there's only one of them, so we're going to write 3. So I'm going to cross these out actually as we're dealing with them. So 2 is gone, 3 is gone. The next number up would be 6. That one's gone. The next number up would be 7, and there's 2 of them, so I write 2 of them, that 7 and that 7. The next number up is 11, gone. 12, I have 2 of them. The last 3 numbers, 2 are 20 and 20. I dealt with those, and my final number is 51. So now I have them ordered from least to greatest. Step 1 is done. Step 2, now we cross out values from the outside. So 2 is gone, 51's gone, 3 and 20, 6 and 20, 7, 12. Good. Oh, I only have a middle number, 1 left, so that's good. I've ordered them. I don't have to take a value or an average for the 2. So I get, for this one, a median of just 11. So, ordering from least to greatest, crossing out numbers from the outside in. Sometimes that's easiest, or, I mean, you can count them too and find out what the middle one is that way. Okay, there's one more example I'm going to skip because I think we've done enough now. This one involves a lot more negative values, which is fine. You can hopefully deal with that. Or maybe we should order them. Maybe we should order them first, just so you guys know what the smallest and what the greatest is. So I'm just going to do step 1 for this one. So the smallest value in this data set is actually negative 20. That's the smallest number. So negative 20. That one's gone. The next smallest value is negative 14. The next smallest value, we still have some negatives left, so negative 5. Then we go up to negative 3. I know it seems weird. Then we go up to negative 2. Now, is there any 0? Nope, but we have numbers that are greater than 0 now. We have 1. That's gone. We have 5. That one's gone. Then we have 8, 12, and 13. 8, 12, and 13. And I've dealt with all the values. So I have my entire data set here labeled from least to greatest. I've done that. Step 2 would be to cross them out, and step 3 would be to see if there's a middle number or if we have to take an average. So that's example 5. I'm going to move on though. It's because I don't want to take up too much of your time. We just have 2 things left, mode and range. Mode is fairly easy. We use the symbol MO, and this is the symbol for mode. Oops. Symbol for mode. And what the mode is for the most often, the number that's shown the most often in a data set. So question 1, what is the mode of the following set? I look through, I have a negative 4, I have a negative 1 here, and I also have a negative 1 here. I don't have another negative 4, I don't have another 3, I don't have another 4, or an 8. So in this case, the mode is negative 1. That's the number that appears the most. Question 2, let's see if there are numbers that appear the most in this one. So I have a negative 5 and a negative 5. Don't have another negative 2, don't have another 1, or a 2, 6, 9. But look, I have a 10 and a 10, and no other 14. So, in this case, I have 2 modes, and I write with brackets like this. I have negative 5 and 10. Okay, negative 5 and 10. So, you're allowed to have more than one mode. Okay, you could have 2 modes, you could have 3 modes, depending how big your data set is. So what number appears the most in this data set? And this is very important for a lot of statistics too, when they try to see what number occurs the most, what values are we looking at here. Okay, let's do another one. The mode, let's see, I have a -5 and I have a -5. No other -2. No 1, 2, 6, 9. I have a 10, a 10, and a 10, and a 14. Now you might think, oh, you know what, I could write -5 and 10. They both appear. But no, there's only one mode in this case. There's only one number that appears 3 times, the 10. The -5 only appears twice. So there's only one mode for this one. One more example on mode, but I'm actually going to skip that one because you can easily go through and figure out what the mode is for that one. Okay, last example or set of examples are based on range. Now range, we're going to use just the letter R, and this is the symbol for range, or what we say is the difference between the biggest and smallest. The biggest and the smallest numbers. So, range is the difference, and remember that the difference, this means subtraction. Anytime you see the word difference, it means subtraction. So the difference, the subtraction, between the biggest and the smallest. So in this data set, let's find the biggest. The biggest number in this data set is 33. Now let's find the smallest. The smallest number in this data set is 5. The difference is the subtraction between them. And when we subtract those two numbers, we get a value of 28. So that means the range is 28. It goes a range of 28 from all the way from 5 to 33. If you want to think about it like that, all the way from 5 to 33, from the smallest to the biggest, I subtract them, starting with the biggest, and I get a range of 28. Okay, so range, biggest minus smallest. That's all we're going to do for these ones. So range equals biggest, just to remind yourself, minus smallest. So the biggest number in this data set, they're already ordered for us, but if they're not, you'll have to look through and you'll have to find out what the biggest number is. Hopefully you should be able to do that. So in this case it's 39, and the smallest value in this case is a negative 12. Now, be careful when you're subtracting negative numbers. Okay, when I was in grade 10, my teacher told me that sometimes if you have a minus and a negative, these two things, you can get rid of them and they turn to a plus. So it's actually the same as 39 plus 12. Those two negative signs actually cancel each other out. Okay, so 39 plus 12 is actually 51. So the range of this set is 51. Last example we have to go through here. Again, this set is not in any order, so that's why sometimes it's a good idea to put them in order so you can see what the largest and what the smallest is. But if you can kind of look through, I mean, you could reorder them if you wanted to, or we can just kind of look through and say, okay, negatives, I know there's negative numbers. So one of the negative numbers is going to be the smallest value. The biggest negative number will be the smallest value. And I can see that negative 22 is the smallest value. Now we go through and try to find, well, first of all, we should have found the biggest, but that's okay. So we found the smallest, go through to find the biggest, and I can see that 16 is the biggest. So I start with the biggest, I subtract the smallest, negative 22. Remember, when I have a minus negative, it's the same as adding. So 16 plus 22, which is actually 38. So the range is 38. And you might be thinking, well, how is it 38? Like, how does this make sense in terms of like where the numbers are? But if you drew a number line, and we have our 0, and we have negative 22 down here, the smallest, and we have 16 up here, the biggest, what we're actually finding is we're finding the distance in between those two, which is the range. And the distance in between those two is in fact 38. It takes me 38 units to get from all the way from negative 22 all the way up to 16. So hopefully that helps. You'll be able to do the assignment now. Move on, go to the assignment, download it, print it off, and then complete that when you can. Thank you. I hope that helped.